Welcome to Switched on IT. This is Barry. We have Doug and Ray with us again today. I think we've got them on the screen now. Good morning, gentlemen.
Good morning, Barry. Good to see you.
Hi, Ray.
Hey there. Hi, Barry.
Hi. Now, gents, we're talking about marketing today, are we? CRM, I think?
That's correct.
That's right. All right. We'll turn it over to you and let you take it away.
Good day. Thanks Barry, and thanks, Ray. So let's also talk about what we're not going to talk about, because when we're talking about CRM systems, so that's customer relationship management systems, which are big databases. They've got a number of different uses because people use them for their email marketing programs, and they use them for maybe their mobile marketing programs. But fundamentally, the CRM system for a business is typically the one source of truth, or should be the one source of truth for relevant customer data. So it might not have every transaction in it, every invoice that the customer has ever generated, but a CRM system should be the basic software application that a business collects its customer record information that it needs to use for different purposes. And it might be customer support, and it might be actually populating an email marketing platform with the relevant data, having some selection criteria to use it. But that's what it is. It's the customer relationship management system. It's a database of customer records, and it can be used for a multitude of different activities in the business. Now, there is a rich variety of customer relationship management systems, and that's what we'd like to talk about today. So Ray and I were going through this before we kicked off today. We agree that there's a big four that most people are going to be familiar with, particularly in small businesses, and they are number one is Salesforce, number two is ZOHO, number three is Microsoft's Dynamics 365, and number four is HubSpot. So what we'd like to do is step through what we feel as though the major features, advantages, disadvantages, and use cases are for each of those major ones, and then we'll also talk about some of the second tier ones that people are probably going, hey, what about this one? We use this one. So we'll talk about some of those, and hopefully in the next 40 minutes you'll get a good sense of what's out there in CRM systems and maybe what is going to be most suitable for your business. So Ray, let's kick off, shall we, with Salesforce. Everybody knows Salesforce.
Yep.
What do you feel as though the major advantages and disadvantages of Salesforce are?
Well, I think the biggest thing is that Salesforce finally embraced small business recently with a specific focus on a small business pricing and small business package. They are the juggernaut in the industry. They've been around the longest, and they have a lot of different integrations. So I would say that they're the biggest pro for any small business that's looking for implementing a customer relationship management tool. That is the interaction between you, the business, and your potential and current clients and customers, is Salesforce's amazing ability to integrate with so many different things. If you want to connect to any other types of tools, there is likely an ability for you to be able to do that. I'm an Evernote certified consultant, and you can connect Salesforce to Evernote, and you can, it's like you pick the tool, and there's an integration between Salesforce and that tool, most likely, maybe not within Salesforce proper, but certainly a third-party integration. So I think it's extensibility through third-party integration is one of its biggest assets.
Okay, and in terms of, you mentioned that they finally embraced small business, and key point, that's a lot of our audience, and Salesforce was generally a very, let's say, a feature-rich and quite a complex beast for small business, but also quite expensive. So tell us about what the SMB-focused version of Salesforce looks like in terms of price, US dollars, and we can figure it out in Australian dollars, and also in terms of usability and features.
Yeah, I don't know what the original pricing was for Salesforce in the enterprise space, but today it's roughly about $25 per user per month USD. So I don't know
Yeah.
what the translation there is in Australian dollars, but that's far more affordable than it was once upon a time for others.
Uh-huh. And for the more and is that the base price now for Salesforce in the US, or is there a more
Yeah.
feature-rich version which is a bit more expensive?
That is correct. So when you start out with a small business version, there are I think they call it Cloud Essentials or something like that. But the idea is that it has some of it's most of the features a small business would need, and then you can upgrade from there if you need more features. I'm looking here on their website just to see what the variety of features that they're purporting underneath the what they call Lightning Essentials. And so the Lightning Essentials has a set of features which include just basic CRM stuff. You have account and contact management, you have opportunity management, sales process customization, and then it says automated activity capture. I don't know what that means. And then they have tax management and an activity feed. And so you get quite, I mean, I'm going through the list here, and there's quite a lot of features already in that small business tier that I don't see a lot of people needing to go up to anything greater than probably if you really needed to go up to the Lightning professional version, which is 75 USD per month per user. That one includes some additional, features, but nothing that most small businesses are going to really need. So I think that the Lightning Essentials is a really fantastic price tier if Salesforce is something that they're looking for.
Yeah, and in terms of that journey, so a business decides to get Salesforce or any other CRM system, I guess job number one is to put some useful records into the CRM platform. Tell us about what you're seeing there and what are the challenges that people are running into in terms of getting their records across. Is it just converting my Outlook contacts list to a CSV file and uploading, or is there a bit more to it than that?
Oh, there's always more to it than that, unfortunately, as you know, Doug. I think one of the big issues for businesses is with any tool, you need to figure out where it fits into the workflow of the business and how your sales team is going to use it before you even look to the tools. And that's really going to be the determinant to help you filter out which of these tools that we're going to talk about today, in addition to Salesforce, that you need to be able to make inroads into your sales goals, right? So it's identifying what's the sales workflow within the business, how do you actually sell, and what's your sales strategy, and are you the type of business that actually requires a CRM? I've recently come across several businesses where they are product-based retail businesses, and they have some customized solutions for clients where they take on these larger contracts, and it would actually be good for them to have a CRM for those people and for those leads, and they weren't managing them, so therefore a lot of these deals were falling through the cracks. So figuring out the sales process, and then once you've figured out the sales process, then you can go ahead and say, oh, you know what, at this point in time, we need to provide this documentation, we need to provide an estimate or a proposal or some kind of preliminary invoice, a purchase order template for clients. And if you can figure out what those pieces are, then you get through the whole pipeline and you figure out, okay, these are the things my CRM needs. Now let's go out there and look at the tools and see which ones satisfy those needs. And then there's the big problem, right? Which is importing data and then connecting them to your systems, and then training your staff so that they use it. The biggest problem I see with CRMs is user adoption. You put this tool into people's hands, and you require it, quote unquote, of them to use, but who really, unless you really enforce usage, then people will only use it to the effect that they know it's going to benefit them.
Yeah, very true. And you know, as recently as yesterday, I was talking to one of our sales team and saying, all right, well, look, has anybody called this individual? And the answer was, yeah, I've called that person. Good. Because they were an online inquiry. We can see, you know, we've got that record in our online chat service. And the thing is that that lead had not been entered into the CRM system, and therefore the fact that a call had been, outbound call had been made, nobody would have known. And then that leads to sort of doubling up, because then somebody comes in, that fellow is actually away today. He's off sick, and that's no criticism of him for that. But it's just all too easy, isn't it, for people to go, all right, well, look, I'm handling this one. You know, I've sent them an email, I've made an outbound call, it hasn't entered into the CRM system, and somebody has to pick up the trail, and there's no evidence. There's no information to pick up the trail.
And it's got to be up to the technology. You really need the technology to be able to be as seamless as possible for the amount of traffic that your business is getting. Like in your business, you know, where it's very high traffic and you're getting a lot of inbound inquiries, you need things to tie together as best as they can without a lot of redundancy, without a lot of double data entry. And in this particular case, it's requisite of the person making the outbound phone call to log it. And that's something that you need to make sure that the whole process, like just making a record and tracking that phone call, needs to be as easy as possible, so that it can be done. I've seen some CRM solutions where you have a mobile application, and when you make a phone call, it automatically captures the fact that there was a phone call made, so that you can then easily create the record directly from that phone call. So even looking for these, what might seemingly be a marginal feature can actually be a very powerful feature for sales becoming effective. That is, the sales department becoming very effective, even though you just think of it as oh, well, so-and-so needs to have the willpower and the discipline to capture this phone record. There are certain industries where, you know, it's just important for them to be able to have these kinds of features to make it as easy as possible for them. I'm in a very low phone call environment. I don't get a lot of phone calls in my office. So most of it is email based, and that's and that might just be because of my personality and the way in which I built my business. But you know, I don't get phone calls. You know, it's very rare. I schedule all my phone calls, and my clients know to schedule phone calls with me. So I very rarely get a phone call that I didn't plan to receive. And so the rest of the company is like that now. And so we have chosen to be very email focused, and we're actually changing. We're changing our entire customer support platform to move away from email in some way, shape, or form. Not completely, but you know, kind of having a dashboard for that. And we'll probably have a show on customer support platforms at some point. And that has changed because our CRM is very email focused. Our company is very email focused. Now our customer support system needs to also be very email focused. So just do some introspection as a business owner and say, how do we most communicate with our clients, and what's the best way to do so? You know, one of the reasons why we're email focused is because of me. We've attracted those kinds of clients, and so now our clients are very used to that. But there's probably good criticism to say that I could be a little bit more phone friendly. You know, we could be better at being and handling phone calls because you know I just don't like them. You know, I make lots of phone calls. I'm on the phone all day, but I just don't like people calling me randomly out of the blue. I like for someone to tell me they're going to call so that I can be planned and prepared for the conversation. And so, you know, my point in saying all that is that there's a clear line between how you like your business to be done, but there's also how does your potential customers and current customers like for business to be done with you, and you should probably, you know, lean toward the way in which your customers want to work with you as opposed to your own needs. But every business is different in that way. So
yeah. Look, I think that's really great commentary there, Ray, because you know, every business is different. I think your point is a good one about looking at the various stakeholders in a CRM system. And because you're going to have multiple users, you're going to have maybe a customer support team, a sales team, a marketing team, could even be account and collections people might need to use the CRM system to record interactions with customers there. And I think with each of those parts of your business or processes, it's well worthwhile doing some process mapping and saying, well, what do we currently do? And then when you define that, and really that's I'd say that's on the white, that's with some post-it notes, and that's with the people involved. And because typically what you find when you do a process like that from a high level you might think this is the process that happens, but when you actually sit down and challenge it, and I'd say sometimes it's great to have a third party in the room who's not a sort of a senior manager or someone with some skin in the game, but someone that's got skin in the game for getting to the truth and finding out what people actually do. That is the best way to both refine the process and identify the information and data needs to execute the process. And then that can inform what data has to be in the CRM system. And obviously that tells you then where you have to go fossicking in the company's different silos and finding out where that data is and figuring out a way to get it across. And I guess, Ray, that also throws in some challenges, because then people have to actually look at some automated way of getting data from, one system. It could be an accounting platform or an ERP system or something else into their CRM system. So can you tell us a little bit about what you've observed in that particular process?
Yeah, the proliferation of an entire industry for synchronizing data, and it's only getting better. And I have a soapbox that I get on when I talk to small business audiences, which is that the various hub and spoke of your business, right? If you consider all of the data that you have for your business, if they're not being connected to one another, sales is not being connected to marketing, is not being connected to your accounting and finance, it's not being connected to your point of sale, is not being connected to your social media, and so on and so forth. All of that data not communicating with one another it really creates blind spots for you as a business owner as a whole. And so the more that this data can be synchronized for analysis and synthesis, the better off you are in making business decisions, good business decisions. And so there's been a whole proliferation of tools. There is Zapier, which is a tool that allows for synchronization of these various web products across platforms. There is IFT. IFT is a more consumer-based product, but you could certainly use it for those types of things. PySync, and there are several other synchronization tools that are coming out. And what I usually tell people, though, is that you want to use the tools that are integrated directly within the tools you're using already. So, like I said before, Salesforce and Evernote connect with their own integration. So that's going to be better than me attempting to connect Salesforce via IFT or Zapier or some other third-party automation tool, right? You're always going to have a better chance connecting them when they integrate directly with one another. But there are available items out there.
Is your computer driving you crazy? Is it slow or doing things you didn't expect? Well, having a computer crash or pick up a virus can be a complete nightmare for a business, so having someone local you can trust to get you up and running again is critical. The dedicated team of experts at Computer Troubleshooters Toowoomba West will put your mind at ease from the moment you walk through the door and will get your problem solved in no time with a 100% guarantee on their work. Laptops, tablets, PCs, whatever you have, Roger and the team can fix it for you. So visit them today at 236 Bridge Street, Newtown. Well, can't get in to see them? No worries. Just call them on 4642 1331 and they'll come to you. Toowoomba Troubleshooters, Toowoomba West, on the web at www.computertroubleshooters.com.au/Toowoomba West.
let's. So as we were saying, ZOHO is a CRM system that I kind of cut my teeth on many years ago. Seems to be quite popular in Australia with small businesses. And Ray, what's your sense of how popular it is and how people perceive the features of it and the usability of it?
Well, you've actually enlightened me in terms of some of the features that ZOHO CRM does have that are actually quite functional. So I think from an American perspective, I know that a lot of businesses actually do use ZOHO. It's a very popular tool. They advertise very heavily on Google to small business owners, so they're picking up a lot of folks. And for a while, they were giving away. They do not now, but they used to give away free email hosting, and so people were jumping on ZOHO Mail to be able to have the free hosting. I think it was up to 50 email accounts or something like that, and it was to get people into the ZOHO platform. And so then ZOHO is a part of a larger suite of products. So they have ZOHO Web Builder, and they have ZOHO CRM and many other products. And the CRM itself is actually quite akin to Salesforce, I think, in the sense of it having a lot of the basic features up front, and it, for me, it reminds me of there's a CRM solution called Sugar CRM. We're not going to talk about it today, but it's an open source software, and it reminds me of ZOHO in kind of its look and feel and other things of that nature. So that's my experience, was that ZOHO looks kind of dated, but as you were saying earlier before we started recording, it's really functional for you. It was actually really, really good for you when you were using it.
Yeah, I quite like the simplicity of the user interface. It was very easy to, create a sales pipeline and manage the funnel and do all those sort of neat things that you need to do, and it just seemed to present the information that I needed in a very functional, intuitive way. So, I thought that was pretty good. And you touched on there also the provision of free email services. And we certainly noticed that. We had quite a few customers of ours flirting with the idea of the free email on ZOHO, but none of them seemed to adopt it for some reason. So I don't know what the real or perceived limitations were there, but it's interesting that they've now moved away from that and kind of sticking to their knitting, because running an email platform is a really complicated thing to take on. And if you're doing that just to sell your CRM system, I'd say you're taking on something you probably don't want to take on. So that's interesting as well. I think with ZOHO, the pricing that I'm seeing there is that it's pretty much the least expensive software as a service CRM platform out there for most folks. Is that what, is that consistent with what you see in the States?
Yeah, it is definitely the least expensive. I wouldn't call it cheap. It's the least expensive of them, and it definitely gives you a fairly high value across the board. As being the Google Small Business Advisor for Productivity, I'm always touting the benefits of G Suite, and G Suite itself doesn't include a CRM. It's one of the big missing components of G Suite. You can go to the G Suite marketplace and integrate with all of the CRMs we're talking about today and in the next episode, and but G Suite itself doesn't hold that. Whereas if you get kind of the ZOHO suite, you do get a CRM within it, so that's kind of nice. It's not actually. I think I misspoke, because HubSpot, which we'll talk about in a future episode, is actually free. So obviously not as full featured. There's some missing components for the free version, but HubSpot itself does give a free version, which is actually very powerful. And so we'll get there. But in terms of the paid versions, ZOHO definitely is the least expensive of them. Yeah. And it just in terms of its popularity in your market, how do you see that? I don't see a lot of my clients don't use ZOHO. I mean, they use a wide variety of other CRMs. You're gonna see number one being the Salesforce users, and then a smattering almost equally across the board of the others that we were really talking about in terms of HubSpot and some of the others equally across the board. But again, my data might be a little bit different than maybe all of the United States, but I certainly see no dominant player in the market. I think it's kind of up to the individual business owners to make a decision about which CRM is going to be best for them. And there's so many of them. That's the really weird part, is that there's no, Salesforce is definitely a dominant force in the industry, but there are so many CRMs out there. I don't know how they all survive, but there are a lot of them.
Yeah, absolutely. Excuse me. And just coming back to with ZOHO, we mentioned there that email integration, or they're offering email. We started out at the start talking about the extensibility, or the quality and extent of integrations with an email platform. Salesforce has certainly got a lot of products that are integrated into it. You mentioned Evernote. With ZOHO, does it, if I'm running Office 365, for example, is it able to integrate with that? Can I get an email to a customer if I think it's relevant across into ZOHO selectively, or do I have to sort of make it add all my emails, regardless of whether they're relevant or not? And what other integrations are you aware of with ZOHO?
Yeah, so ZOHO does have a lot of integration with the Microsoft Office platform. They are, as I understand it, I'm searching as we're talking. I believe that they're actually not as well integrated with the Microsoft platform on Mac OS X. So if you are using Outlook for Mac and you have ZOHO, you're probably going to have more limitations than if you're using Outlook on a Windows computer and you have Office 365 and so on and so forth. So there are some limitations in that regard, and I'm just looking at the various integrations with ZOHO here. But the reality is that there is quite a number of third-party app integrations where you can integrate with G Suite through ZOHO, you can integrate with Microsoft Office through ZOHO. So they have built an ecosystem for that. Now, their ideal is for you to use all of their products, right? You're going to use their ZOHO Docs, you're going to use their ZOHO file storage system, their email program, and those are going to have the tightest integrations. But at the end of the day, if you want to have Outlook on your computer and use Outlook on your phone as your email software, having those third-party integrations back to ZOHO are going to be really useful and powerful. And so, that's where they're working toward. Again, I think it's, and I'm not sure about this, but I believe it's primarily Windows focused. I mean, Windows operating system focused.
Yeah. I think for the providers of CRM systems, they walk a delicate path in the sense that they want to make it as difficult for you to move off their platform as they can. So there's an incentive for them tightly integrating some file sharing services and an email service that they provide, and kind of extending their provision of services into areas where they probably don't have a lot of key strengths. But if it's all tightly integrated, then you kind of get stuck with it. But on the other hand, there's some tension there, because one of the things is that we might have to use, for example, Office 365 and Outlook for other reasons, and so or we might have to use G Suite email, for example. So I think for a lot of these CRM providers, as a guy that talks to a lot of small businesses, to me it would make more sense that they are very good at creating the APIs and offering a level of integration into their platform so that people can continue to use the products of other suppliers that they find very useful and very key to their business processes, and still use the CRM system, rather than force them to drop a favorite provider's product and use an add-on to the CRM system provided by the CRM provider themselves. So I don't know how you see that playing out in the US, but
I absolutely agree, and I believe that's what ZOHO CRM has done. I'm reviewing their site right now, and they have, at least they purport to have an effective Microsoft Outlook plugin so that you can use ZOHO CRM connected with Microsoft Outlook on both Windows and Mac. So that's fantastic. They have plugins for Microsoft Office, so you can connect to the Microsoft Office platform, and as well as Slack. So they have Slack integration, which for folks who don't know, Slack is a messaging application so that if Doug and I were in the same business and we wanted to be able to communicate with each other, we could use it as a kind of messaging platform outside of email in that way. And all of the major companies have jumped on the trend, and so Microsoft Teams has jumped out, and created their own version. So Microsoft Teams is the Slack alternative. Google has created within G Suite something called Chat. So G Suite Chat is the Slack version within Google's ecosystem. So all of the competitors are out there. And most recently, Slack purchased HipChat from Atlassian. So something that's really remarkable is that Slack went out there and purchased a fairly big product, HipChat, from Atlassian. So now you have even less of the competitors in the market, but it definitely shows where the market is going. That there's a consolidation in the chat world, and that's because people don't want to have to be. I don't want to have a Slack channel and a G Suite chat channel and a Microsoft Teams channel to be able to interact with my customers. I want as few as possible to be able to be most effective from a productivity perspective. So my point is that ZOHO CRM is integrating with all of these, and I agree with you that the goal is to not force me to have to change platforms to use your CRM. It's to seamlessly integrate with the platforms I'm already using as a business owner.
Yeah. Absolutely.
Okay, we might leave it there, guys.
So true. Our lives are complicated enough as it is, and if we can't leave a platform to have to use another service inside the CRM system is never going to work for us. So it's interesting the way the CRM companies are seeing that they do have to offer these levels of integration, because otherwise it's quite a barrier to the usage of their CRM platform.
Now, I'm actually going to, it's 10, so Doug, I know you've got a funeral that you need to get to. So I'm actually going to take that last bit out and finish the show with where Ray just finished. Can you bring me back to widescreen, please, Ray?
All right. If it's okay, Barry, I'll say farewell and sign out, because I do need to get going.
Yeah. Yep. That's good. Thank you very much. We'll catch you later, and have a nice week or weekend.
Yeah, good. Yeah, absolutely. All right. See you, fellas.
All right.
Bye.
Bye, Doug. Thanks.
All right.
We ready?
Yeah,
anyway,
yep.
Here we go. We are ready. Ray, that's terrific. Thanks for that. I think that for a lot of small business owners, CRM is something that they don't use all that well. I think it's your point about sitting back and looking at the various stakeholders in the organisation and the various use cases, and making sure that you map those processes and then identify the key pieces of information that need to be in the CRM system and how they support key processes in the organisation. That is the way to get the most value from implementing a CRM system. And also we touched on clients there as well, and making sure that people actually do use the system as part of their process. Well, that's one of the ways in which we can achieve that. So hopefully our listeners have got a good sense of the big four in this space, Salesforce, ZOHO, Dynamics 365 from Microsoft, and HubSpot, and have a sense of where CRM fits in their organisation.
Okay, thank you, gentlemen. That's been a really interesting discussion again. We're going to leave it there for today, and perhaps we'll pick this up with another show on some of the other CRMs later. But for now, This has been Barry for Switched on IT. We'll see you again next time.